So you want to find a saw-whet owl, eh? Well, easier said than done. These tiny adorable owls are masters of hiding, so it's very unlikely that you'll ever stumble upon one by chance. Don't be discouraged. I've found dozens of Northern Saw-whet Owls in my lifetime, and I've got some guidelines that you can follow to help you with your efforts to find these charismatic birds. Let's go find a Northern Saw-whet Owl. Rule 1 when looking for saw-whet owls, don't look in deciduous trees. These trees simply don't have enough cover for saw-whet owls to feel safe. Now, these birds can be found in trees like these if there's no better alternatives around, but these would be really dense deciduous trees with lots of leaves and branches. A better option for saw-whet owls would be things like cedar trees and other conifers. These trees are much denser, they make saw-whet owls feel safer, and these are the places that you'll want to start looking. Rule number 2 when looking for saw-whet owls, go during the winter. Although they can be found year-round in places like the Rocky Mountains, Appalachians, and the upper parts of the United States, saw-whet owls will be found in the winter in places like the Midwest and Southeast. They will begin migrating south in October, and they will return north to their breeding grounds in March. Rule number 3 when looking for saw-whet owls, don't wear your favorite shirt. Saw-whet owls like to roost in locations that have plenty of thorns and branches. So if you're not careful, you could easily rip a hole in your clothing. If you plan to routinely seek saw-whet owls, tear-resistant clothing may be a good investment for you. Rule number 4 when looking for saw-whet owls, learn how to find the right tree. A tiny conifer like this one behind me is not large enough to make a saw-whet owl feel protected, while a big pine like this one may not be dense enough to make a saw-whet owl feel safe. You need to find a small to medium-sized conifer that has a nice mix of dense branches for a saw-whet owl. This cedar tree behind me is a good example. It's not too big, but it's not small enough to make a saw-whet owl feel vulnerable. It's got a lot of thick branches and good cover for the saw-whet owl to roost during the day. Rule number 5 when looking for saw-whet owls, find the whitewash. A saw-whet owl's favorite roost tree is going to be caked in its droppings, and it's often way easier to find the droppings than the bird itself. Look for smears of white on the branches below, and this will help you find the bird. Alright, let's go find a saw-whet owl using the rules that we've established. Alright, I just found a cedar tree that is absolutely loaded with whitewash. Unfortunately, no one's home in this cedar tree right now, and judging from how dry the whitewash is, the bird's been gone for a few weeks, but just looking at how much whitewash is in that cedar tree, it was clearly a favorite roost, and generally when a saw-whet owl finds a place that it likes to roost, it won't move too far. So saw-whet owl, I'm hot on your trail. Also below this cedar tree were numerous pellets. Finding pellets and whitewash is a surefire way to know that you've found an owl's roost tree. Alright, jackpot. We've got about 6 owl pellets underneath this cedar tree, and a good rule of thumb is that a saw-whet owl will produce a pellet about once per day. So that means that the saw-whet owl was here for at least a week probably, because I'm assuming there's some pellets that I haven't yet found. Definitely a tree that the saw-whet owl enjoyed a lot. If you look closely at this owl pellet, you'll be able to see lots of tiny bones. Of course, those would be from the meal of the saw-whet owl. There's probably something along the lines of a meadow vole or another small rodent. If I were to pick this pellet completely apart, I would basically be able to piece together the entire skeleton of whatever the prey item was. It's important to remember that while an owl pellet may look like poop, it is nothing more than fur and bones. That's because when a saw-whet owl catches a prey item, it'll generally take it back to a roost where it'll typically eat the head first and then the body, and rather than try to digest all the fur and bones, it will regurgitate those parts in the form of pellets. I very quickly dissected one of the owl pellets and I found some really cool things. At the bottom of my palm, we have a couple of leg bones. Going to the middle, we have the lower parts of the jaw. You can see some teeth there. And at the top of my palm, we have the upper part of the skull. You can see some teeth and the incisors at the front. This doesn't really narrow down what this creature was for me, but if there are any mammalogists watching, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Jackpot. This Northern Saw-whet Owl was so well hidden that I didn't notice the bird until I was practically right on top of it, hence its big eyes. Upon noticing the owl, I backed off to give the owl the space it deserves. This lovely Northern Saw-whet Owl soon calmed down as its eyes closed shut and it tried to get some much-needed rest. The views of this bird weren't great, but beggars can't be choosers when looking for saw-whet owls. The roost you find them in is the roost they'll remain in for the rest of the day. I just found my first saw-whet owl of the year. She is sleeping very peacefully in a cedar tree behind me. I say she because this bird is pretty large for a saw-whet owl, but don't get the wrong idea. This bird is still only about the size of your palm, very tiny. This saw-whet owl is only about 25 meters from where I found one last winter. It could be the same bird, but I wouldn't be shocked if it were a completely different bird. This is a very big wildlife management area, and there are thousands of cedar trees here. There's a lot of great habitat for saw-whet owls at this location. Although I came birding here about a month ago, I did not find an owl that day. I didn't even find any whitewash, but after finding the owl today, I located about a dozen trees that had whitewash in it, so this bird's been moving around in a lot of trees. I'm positive that it would have been here a month ago. I just would have overlooked it. Saw-whet owls are masters of finding roost trees that make them almost invisible. Saw-whet owls are generally perched around eye level when I find them in their roost trees, but the one I found today, she was about 10 or 11 feet up in a tree. I almost overlooked her because I generally don't find them when they're at that elevation. They're just really easy to overlook when they're that high. Finding a saw-whet owl can be difficult work, but once all your hard work finally pays off and you find one, what should you do? Northern saw-whet owls are amazing birds to experience in person because they don't respond by flying away like most other owls. This means that saw-whet owls are very accommodating, but don't mistake their lack of a flight response for comfort with your presence. Just because you can get within a few feet of a saw-whet owl doesn't mean you should. Remember, if an owl's eyes are wide open, it means they're alarmed. Be sure to back up when you notice a wide-eyed owl. Don't try to make noises or otherwise disturb an owl for the sake of getting a good photo. When you first find a saw-whet owl, it will likely look at you, but if you're practicing good viewing etiquette, it should lose interest in you after a few minutes and start resting. It was very exciting for me to finally find my first saw-whet owl of the year today. I had gotten skunked every time I'd gone looking for them this winter, so now that I've found one, it is a fantastic feeling. That's a big reason why saw-whet owls are my favorite bird. You can spend hours looking for them every winter, find absolutely nothing, and then when you finally find one, it is just a feeling that can't be matched by anything else, at least in my book. You can go searching for these owls in many places within the United States during winter and use the 6 rules I laid out if you want to find one for yourself. Have any of you ever found a saw-whet owl before? I'd love to hear about your experiences with these birds, so leave a comment below. Also, be sure to like this video if you've enjoyed this content, and subscribe for more fun birding videos. If you're in the mood for some more owl content, check out my video on how owls sleep. That's all for now. This is Connor from WorldwideBirder, signing off.